All right, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for some more PSGL. Today it's round one of the brand new season 31 on the Formula 1 22 game. Today we arrive at Austria to kick it off for Formula 7 over here on PlayStation. And today alongside me I have Storm. So how are you doing, Storm?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Hopefully, the weather, fingers crossed, doesn't interfere with the internet for myself and any of the British guys that are, or females that are racing this evening, because it's looking a bit, yeah, dark and grey as it is on the track this evening. Hopefully, no rain this evening, as we all like that dry race. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But rain does spice it up a little bit. All the drivers still on the soft compound tyre, and we have a full lobby.
Yeah, there we go. All 20 drivers for the opening round of the season. You always love to see it. But yeah, I'm sure quite a few of the drivers will be hoping for it to be a dry quali and race, as I know a lot of drivers are a lot more comfortable in these dry conditions. It's a lot easier to handle the car, a lot easier with lockups and traction control and braking points, because now PSG have decided, obviously, that all the Monday PlayStation tiers are no assist. So yeah, all the way from Formula 1 to Formula 8, I think it is, are all no assist. So it's going to be a challenge for these drivers, as I'm fairly sure a lot of drivers have had to turn off quite a few assists. But hopefully they can make it work on this new era of Formula 1. But right now we have Wom on his first flying lap in the Ferrari, currently on his way down to turn 3. And we are going to ride on board for this entire lap, just missing the apex there slightly. But obviously with the new handling patch that's only just been brought out today, the cars are a lot more understeery, but they're more understeery to make it more balanced, because the traction is now easier, and the understeer is just there to kind of balance out the lap times. And yeah, what do you actually think of that new balance patch?
Yeah, I've had a brief 10-15 minutes on it, and yeah, I'm not a fan of it. It kind of goes back to the old saying of, if it's not broken, don't fix it, kind of thing. Like, in the update I saw, they fixed Kevin Magnussen's eye colour. Like, come on, is that really an important update that needs to be done? Okay, yes, of course, they want all official drivers, looking as they should be, but there's more important bugs that obviously need to be fixed, like the sound bug. But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one for the drivers, as obviously they've only had half a day to get used to the handling model, as Olaf has set the first, provisional pole, should we say, of a 5.0. I have seen some of the the time trials from a few of the drivers setting 3.9s, 4.0s, so I wouldn't be surprised if that 5.0 is a little bit of a kind of banker lap early on in this qualifying session.
Well, if I'm going to be honest, I was really excited for that Kevin Magnussen eye color change in the new update. But going back to the action, yeah, we currently have the two Aston Martins of 1 and 2, with the top 3 just separated by 55 1,000. So it's pretty close so far, but obviously plenty of people yet to set a lap time. And we're just going to pick out someone random. We have Miku in the Haas here, coming down into turn 4, hitting his apex quite nicely as we come through the middle sector now, as plenty of people are currently on their flying laps, with a couple of people struggling with the track limits, as you do at this Austria circuit. Definitely very tricky with the track limits, as we even saw in real life, because since it's such a short track, you have to find time wherever you can. But the Haas driver now coming through the final turn to end off his lap time. What kind of lap time can he set? It's looking quite quick from him. He's going to be setting a 1 minute 5.1, and that puts him in the top 5 in this session. But plenty of lap times to be set, as he's been misplaced as a It looks like Yagi has actually set the provisional pole time. He's the first man to dip into the 1 minute 04. He's with a 104 at point 0.8. So one of the Haas drivers doing quite nicely for himself in this early stage of the qualifying session. But as you can see, it's quite overcast in this session. So do you think we could possibly expect some rain? And if we do, how could that affect these drivers?
Yeah, I think you can never rule out rain, especially with F1. It's kind of something that I think the drivers don't like. Some do, some don't. It's kind of a, as we like to call it here in the UK, a Marmite situation. It's either you love it or you hate it. Some drivers really relish in the wets, especially around the more difficult tracks like Imola, Spa, and others as well. Obviously, the night tracks like Singapore, that must be absolute hell trying to do rain there. As yeah, we are coming up to round about the 10-minute mark of qualifying. 15 drivers have set lap times. Obviously, we've still got 4 left to set a lap. So looking at the track, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's a tricky one because it's a very short lap, as I believe LFR K3 is going through turns 5, 6 and 7 as he is on an outlap in the Mercedes.
Yeah, and we also have LFR Indigo currently on his lap time in the AlphaTauri. He actually sets a purple middle sector, so looking promising so far as he now comes into the final 2 turns. Very tricky with the track limits, but if you get it right, you could gain a lot of time. But you see, he got it slightly wrong there, went wide, manages to actually keep his lap valid, and sets a 1 minute 5.2. But with that moment in the final turn, there's definitely quite a bit of time to gain. Looks like Olaf has just started his lap time in the Mercedes. He's going to get a nice little bit of slipstream from this McLaren ahead of him before heading into turn 3, a very tricky braking zone as it is uphill, hitting this apex quite nicely, and that's a good exit as well. So taking that turn 3 really nicely. As we said before, the traction is quite a bit easier on this game, so it's going to help the drivers through low speed corners. Just like that, turn 3 goes a little bit wide. Coming into that turn 4, it's a big moment from him. He makes a correction and it puts him into the grass, and that is going to have to cause him to abandon this lap time. He's either going to have to cool down the tyres and go for a bit of a cool down lap, or come into the pit lane for a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Now that the rule where if you qualify on the softs, you can start the race on whatever tyre you like, so most drivers will only be using the soft tyre in this session. But so far we have Yagi on provisional pole in that Haas, currently on his outlap, and still 4 drivers yet to set a lap time, and I think it could be a bit worrying for them. We're now coming to the 9 minutes mark, just 9 minutes to go in the session. Could they be a bit worried that they might not be able to get enough laps in? I think I'd be wrong with that, with Bugatti just setting a 1 minute 4.6, but the other 3 who are currently on their outlaps, they're only going to have enough time for about 2 laps in this session.
Yeah, I think also with the type of track it is, the nature of it, as we saw in the actual real life Austrian Grand Prix, there was 47 track limit offences committed in that race. So it's going to be a bit of a tricky one, I think, for the drivers to get that perfect lap. But Bugatti has kind of got that lap that he wants for the moment. But don't count out Tiaf Yagazan. He is part of, obviously, of course, Talent Factory esports. So there's some pace in there. He's just got to find it and unlock that pace, as he will be, I'm sure, doing very soon. Olaf, a very quick driver as well. So that fight for that pole position is going to be heating up very shortly, as we may have a 3-way fight for that pole position, as I can't see what the time is left on the because the sector 3, 7 minutes and a half left here, as we are ramping up to what will be a very, very close ends qualifying.
Yeah, and yeah, he just crossed the line there. Managed to set a time that was 6/100ths faster than his previous best, but just like LFR Indigo, struggled at that last turn, but wasn't so lucky. Invalidated his lap time, and that lap didn't count. But based off of that lap, there might not be too much time to gain from that 104.8, but only time will tell. As it looks like Wama went to P3 for a second, but Kartzer has just displaced him and moved himself up into P2. Olaf currently on an out lap. He's coming into the final sector, getting ready to start one of his final lap times of the session. And with the new tyre rules, you now have 4 sets of soft compound tyres, which is really helpful at such a short track, because you're able to get all 4 of those lap times in this short qualifying sessions. We cross the line now to begin his lap, and coming into turn 1, just missing that apex slightly, but it could give him a better exit on the run, the very long run down into turn 2 and 3. Although, can you really call to the kink of turn 2 a turn? But we now come into turn 3, hits that apex quite nicely, using plenty of the exit curb to give himself the best traction possible. But maybe he wasn't happy with the traction that he got out of turn 3, because he's decided to abandon that lap time, and he's not going to have too much time to set another lap. So and he's now fallen all the way down to P7, so a lot of people are improving. Todd Graphics into P4 with 104.9. Also with a 104.9 is Alex the G in the Alfa Romeo. So right now it looks like Ferrari and Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin doing quite nicely for themselves. But right now, people like LFR Ian and iSharky still haven't got proper representative lap times in, and they're really going to have to get out there and start setting some lap times. There's just 5 minutes and a half left to go in the session. Olaf's teammate Miguel sets a 1 minute 04.8. That puts him in P3, narrowly missing that Williams. And I think one of the big problems at such a short track is traffic. Everyone just tripping over each other to try and find some space for their lap times. I think that's something that's probably hindering quite a few of these drivers.
Yeah, I think it is. And if there was ever a gentleman's agreement in F1, I think in league racing that goes completely out of the window. I'm seeing quite a lot of NLR drivers here. Olaf, Alex the G, and kart racers. So that could be... as I've just seen middle sector, Nathan gets a 5-place grid penalty with an incident with Trust Vipes, or Vilps. If I do get a name wrong, or more games does get one wrong, then do correct us. But that was the middle sector. I just see it behind Olaf, as Olaf makes his way into the pits for gearing up for that final run. But yeah, a lot of drivers, as you mentioned before, not really setting competitive lap times. Freaky Fast, Daniel, Nathan, Ian, all really competitive drivers who, you know, can on their day set a very competitive lap. But yeah, it's very close still at the top.
Yeah, and I definitely have to agree with you there, although Kart Racer and Bugatti in a bit of a session of their own. The only 2 drivers into the 104.6 is in 2/10 clear of the closest driver, which is Miguel. But right now, Bugatti is currently on a lap time, if I'm not mistaken, on the exit of turn 3 with the DRS wide open, and now coming down into turn 4. Let's see what he can do going through here, hitting that apex quite nicely, and using that full width of track to get himself the best exit possible as we come into the left-hander of turn 5 and now 6. Some very tricky turns, especially the exit of this turn 6, and you can see there he struggled with it, and that has invalidated his lap time. I was going to say one of the harder corners to get right with the track limits. We now have 3 minutes left in the session, so for a lot of drivers, they'll be looking to set their final lap times of the session. I think Town Factory Yagi is currently on a lap time. He's in the middle sector. and he's got some clean air ahead of him, so that's going to help him out quite nicely on his lap time. He is now coming through turn 6, and is he going to make a mistake on this exit? It looks like he does, so it's not just Bugatti who's struggling on that exit at turn 6. It's Yagi too, invalidating his lap time there. Or that's turn 7, I should say. The exit turn 7, he's invalidating his lap time. So, yeah, definitely, as you can see, a lot of drivers struggling with those track limits. Looks like Wom is currently on a lap in the Ferrari. No, he's not. Never mind. He's 2 seconds down in the first sector, so he's currently on a cooldown lap. But just trying to find someone on a lap. Looks like Olaf is about to start his lap time as he now comes across the line to begin what is most likely going to be his final lap time of the session. But we'll have to see. We now come down into turn 1, just about hitting that apex. You don't see a lot of drivers really driving over that curb with these new ground effect cars. It can really bottom out and lose you a lot of downforce. These 5/100s coming through into the second sector, although there's only one turn in sector 1, as he gets a cheeky bit of slipstream off the McLaren ahead of him. That is going to help him out quite nicely. We now come down into turn 4. He's just gone wide there. Maybe that'll help him on the exit, as it looks like Yagi has actually retired from the session. He's retired from the pit lane, so he's not confident enough that he can get out there and set another lap time. So a 1 minute 4.7 is going to be his final lap time of the session. But Olaf is now coming through to the final 2 turns of turn 8 and 9. Just missing that apex of turn 8, but into turn 9, gets a decent exit there, carrying fifth gear through there. As he comes across the line, he's actually not able to improve to 1,000ths down on his time, and he is going to maintain P8 for the time being. Bugatti is now setting his final lap time of this session. You can see cars littered all over the track, trying to find some space for themselves and also get out of the way of drivers on flying laps. We are now on the run down into turn 3 for what could possibly be the pole time of this session. Bugatti 2/100ths up through the first sector. A decent exit out of turn 3 now as we make our way down to turn 4 on the 3rd DRS straight. Let's see how well can he take this. It looks like just missing that apex slightly. Maybe that's the line through that corner. Just missing it to get yourself a better exit. We now come into turn 6. And he's able to use the full width of track on exit. He's 1/10 up on his time. This is going to be a big improvement from Bugatti, but Kart Racer also on a lap time. He's going to have to be fast enough to beat him. And let's see what he can do now coming into the final turn of the circuit. And what kind of time is it going to be across the line? It's a 104.5, improves by half a tenth. Is that going to be enough to beat Kart Racer, who's 7/1000ths down in the middle sector? And it looks like he's gone wide on the penultimate turn, and that is going to be his lap time invalidated. Can anyone else beat Bugatti? Miguel has actually spun in the final sector. He's not going to be setting a faster lap time, and I don't think anyone else is currently on a lap. So Bugatti is going to take pole position with a 104.5. Kart Racer just 1/10 behind, sadly invalidating that last time, just pushing too hard, and he wasn't able to make it work for himself. He is going to have to settle for P2, and it's a Ferrari 1-3. Wow, what did you think of that session?
Yeah, wow, what a qualifying session. Lots of traffic, lots of times being set, and yeah, Ferrari showing real pace early on the season with a top 3 for both drivers, as yeah, hopefully it all ends well for Ferrari this season. We don't be hearing any plan A, B, C, D. Yeah, I think they might just want to use the whole alphabet at that point. But yeah, the top 3 are covered by a Ferrari powered engine, as Kart Racer will slot into second with the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and what a qualifying session that was. Bugatti showing his pace out of the gate, and obviously Clark got that 5-place grid penalty, qualifying P11, but that's going to send him back all the way to P16. So I think I'm not too sure. It must have been an incident with Trust Vipex because at the same time he got that penalty, Vipex retired from the session. So yeah, it's a shame that Vipex's session ended that. Again, not sure if it was Clark who actually caused that incident, but we're getting ready for the first race of the season here in F7, and the Ferraris showing quite the pace in this qualifying session. But for the race, with that qualifying pace, obviously qualifying isn't everything. So there's definitely a chance that maybe someone in the midfield could possibly catch up, maybe have some better consistency and race pace. All these drivers have plenty to prove in this new season of PSGL. So I'm quite excited for this race. How about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Always the first race of the season, we get to see who maybe is going to be fighting in that title contention. So the drivers will now have a free choice of tyres, so they can either pick the soft, the medium, or the hard. I don't think we'll be seeing the intermediates or the wets this evening. From experience, and obviously knowledge of this track, we probably will be seeing the drivers start either on the hard compound tyre or the medium compound tyre. Some drivers may push for a one-stop strategy. It is doable if the drivers can do it. If not, if there is a safety car, the drivers have the more preferred option for them, which is the two-stop, which obviously will be probably for drivers that start on the medium compound tyre.
Yeah, and we can see the tyre choices here. It looks like the top three all opting for the hard compound of tyres. And it looks like a bit of a 50-50 split here between the drivers as to whether to start on the hards or the mediums. You can see the bottom four all starting on the medium compounded tyres. Obviously, they didn't have the ideal qualifying session that they would have liked, so maybe putting on those softer compounded tyres to make up some positions in the early stage of this race. So they'll be ones to watch. You can see a little pocket of three drivers, P9, 10, and 11, all on the mediums, and also Yagi in P4. He's currently the highest medium runner, so it'll be interesting. Maybe he can even take the lead from P4 in the opening stages. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out with these mixed tyre strategies. But Bugatti is going to be your pole man, as with this new game, there's also a new feature where drivers have to actually park into their grid spots, and if they get it wrong, they'll be set back by just a few meters. So every driver will be looking to get it right, as we can now see the drivers coming onto the grid and ready to line up for this race start. You can see, you might see a few drivers positioning their cars in a bit of a different angle. You can see Bugatti's actually angled his car to the right, and he'll be looking to block off Kart Racer, but Kart Racer's done the opposite. He's angled his car to the left to hopefully try and cover off Bugatti if he gets the better race start, but we'll have to see, as we are now getting ready for the race start. All drivers are now lined up on the grid, and we're just waiting for the lights to go out. But looks like we're having a bit of a delay here. I'm not too sure what's going on, as it looks like all drivers have lined up on the grid. And I think I've seen this glitch before, where possibly some drivers having desync, which causes quite a bit of lag, and therefore a bit of a delay in the session start, as it looks like a couple of people have actually been disconnected from the session. I'm not too sure what's happened there. Bugatti has left the session. It's lights out, and we are underway. Bugatti is under AI, if I'm not mistaken. Kart Racer is in P2, but he's ghosting through him, and Kart Racer takes the lead off of the start. Bugatti obviously having some internet issues, and his AI is getting swarmed. Yagi moving up into P3. He's going down the inside of Wama into turn 3, and he's able to make that move stick on his medium compound of tyres. A lot of action going on in the background. Thought Graphics in P4 with Miguel right behind him. Could he be looking for a move into turn 4? He has a look down the inside, but he's not going to be able to make that move stick. You can see Bugatti's AI is whoa, tumbling down the order there, all the way down to P7 already, and that is a real shame to see, having those internet issues after qualifying on pole position by a tenth at such a short track. That's quite a big difference. So I'm sure he's going to be quite frustrated with that one. Quite a battle going on for P12 at the moment. It looks like Mika down the inside of Clark, who's actually gone off track there on the exit of the penultimate turn. And quite a bit of squabbling going on in this midfield. You can see Bugatti now falling down to P8. The Mercedes of Kepa going down the inside. It looks like he's actually spun, as we're not getting the best camera angle there. Riding on board, you can see he spun at the pit entry, so is Miku. So two drivers spinning at the first turn, and that has lost them a lot of time compared to the rest of the grid. LFR Indigo has moved all the way from P9 to P5 on the medium tyres. Yagi from P4 all the way to P1 with the medium tyres. You can see the medium tyres are really working at this early stage of the Grand Prix, and it's going to help them now, but towards the end of the race they're going to be on the slower compounded tyres. But Yagi, his best chance is to try and pull away from the DRS of Kart Racer. It's going to be quite difficult though, with the 3 DRS zones at this track. So right now Yagi leads the way with Kart Racer and Woma behind him after Bugatti sadly disconnecting from the session. It looks like Todd Graphics there has spun, and his Williams teammate Clark has also spun. So both of those drivers at the back of the grid now in P16 and P18, as Kepa has now caught up to him, is trying to make moves here. And what did you think of that race start?
Yeah, just to update everyone, just speaking to, obviously most people know, Big C, as there may be a restart happened due to obviously Bugatti at the start and a few others, and someone mentioned ABS is available in this session. I can't remember if this tier is allowed it, but yeah, just checking with Big C if there will be a restart due to the issues at the start. But yeah, at the moment we will carry on as normal, as we're on lap 3 of 36, and it's Yagazan who leads the way with Kart Racer in P2. And yeah, it's been a bit of an action-packed early opening laps here in Austria.
Yeah, and I think if the lobby does get restarted, Yagi and Indigo won't be too happy, but that's a mistake from Indigo on the exit of turn 1. He's moved up 5 positions from his starting position of P9, but he's now under pressure from the Aston Martin of Miguel. He looks down the inside, but he's not able to make that move stick. Tries to go for the better exit, but with these hard compound tyres, he's really not able to get the traction out of turn 3. Mika has moved all the way from P17 to P6, so he's had an absolutely amazing start. Daniel in the AlphaTauri moving up 8 positions, so it's been a good start for AlphaTauri, whereas it's a bit of mixed feelings over at the Haas garage. Miku all the way at the back of the grid, with Yagi leading this Grand Prix. So right now we have a bit of a DRS train from P6 to P12, and they're all battling it out for a top 6 position, as it looks like yellow flags there. That's in the middle sector. That's for the Alpine of iSharky. He's fallen all the way down to P18 with what I can only assume is a spin at turn 8, I think that is. And it looks like another one, as I think he was trying to come into the pit lane, went a bit too deep, and he spun at the penultimate turn there, so he's lost a lot of time. So it's not been the greatest of starts for a couple of the drivers. But it looks like Indigo is now pulling alongside Miguel, who is able to overtake him. Indigo trying to fight back with this softer compounded tyre. Miguel looks like he's going to maintain that position, as Indigo is going to let that one go and maintain P5 for now. He's just going to hang on, possibly save up some ERS with the power, and let himself be dragged along with the power of the DRS. And obviously one of the bigger factors of this game is the ERS. And, you know, the difficulty of managing that is a lot higher this game. You think we could see a lot of results change because of that.
Yeah, and just speaking with Big C, he's gonna let the race continue. There shouldn't be any ABS on, but somebody, I don't know if it's a glitch or whatever has happened, the braking assist, not the ABS one, has been put to low. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but we are all clear, green light to carry on racing, as Yagazan is your race leader at the moment, lap 6 of 36, and yeah, Kart Racer just holding on the back there. If Yagazan does make any mistakes, Kart Racer is ready to pounce. And yeah, there seems to be a bit of a there's a bit of a train forming behind Daniel. We've got Daniel, Mika, and Alex the G battling. Oh, Kart Racer has had a spin on the entry, I believe, of turn 5. And that pushes him all the way down to P12.
Yeah, he's fallen all the way down to P12. That's a shame from him. He was running so well. And I think that's because of an incident with Yagi, who now pulls into the pit lane. Is he coming in for a front wing change? Was there an incident between those two, and did we miss it? As you can see, he's actually coming in for a front wing change. We've damaged his front wing, so there must have been an incident between Kart Racer and Yagi. Both of them not coming off too well, as they both had to come into the pit lane for front wing changes. And yeah, I think you're right. That was either into the entry of turn 5 or 6. They must have been side by side, and usually that doesn't work out too well. They both come into the pit lane for fresh front wings, and that leaves Woma in the lead of this race by 3.7 seconds with LFR Indigo behind him. LFR Indigo has had an amazing start, starting P9, but it's a big moment for him on the exit of turn 6, and Miguel goes right into the back of him, who's running very closely behind, and Miguel is now out of this session after a big tank slapper from Indigo, and you can see his tires are overheated, and he's had another spin. So Indigo was doing so well in this race from P9 to P2. He's now all the way down to P14, and Miguel is sadly out of this Austrian Grand Prix. This now leaves Woma with a 6-second lead over a Mika, who started P17 and is now P2 in this race. That just shows you how chaotic this race start has been. He is now leading a group of cars all the way down to P6, or to P5, I should say. He's leading this group of cars, and they're all trying to battle for P2 in this race. And it actually looks like Woma has got himself a time penalty. That's 3 seconds for Woma. Thankfully, it doesn't matter too much since he has that 5.4 second lead. So he's doing quite nicely for himself, keeping it nice and consistent, as the 3 drivers, well, 2 drivers were ahead of him, have now spun, and Indigo and Miguel also spinning, and Miguel sadly coming off worse and retiring from the session. So do you think Woma could be a shout for the race win?
Yeah, he definitely can. He's got that gap now, which he can just start to edge away a little bit more, because he's on the hard compound tyre. It may be the slower compound of tyre, but yeah, it can last a little bit longer than the medium. Sector 3 showing no flags, that was just for a brief moment. But Daniel is going to start to feel the pressure from Alex the G very shortly, because we've got kind of a bit of a DRS train happening between first, second, third, and now fourth is rapidly catching up, which is Olaf. Olaf couldn't really get his qualifying sorted in the qualifying session, but it seems like he has got his race pace sorted. And yeah, one mistake from that top 4, and Olaf could be slipping his way through in Aston Martin in the latter stages of the race. And also, we can't count out LFR Ian. He's also catching on to the back of Olaf as well. Drivers will have to keep an eye on the track limits as well, as that will be a contributing factor of maybe who might win, because woman should I say, has got one track cutting penalty already. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting middle part of the race.
Yeah, and I definitely have to agree with you there. A little battle between Clark and Kepa, with Clark coming out on top, and Daniel is now looking down the inside of Mika into turn 3, nice and late on the brakes, squeezing Mika to the outside while still leaving enough space, and it looks like those hards might be coming into play now. Possibly the medium's starting to drop off a little bit on lap 9, and it looks like a massive send from Alex G, George Russell-esque, into that turn 4, and he's completely squeezed Mika off of the track there. Broke way too late. It could have missed his braking point there, but Mika has now just lost 3 positions in the space of 2 turns, so I don't think he's going to be very happy in that. That could even result in a post-race penalty. We'll have to see after the race, obviously, but right now Olaf now moves himself up into P4, and the top 4 are now all on the hard compounded tyres. The mediums now might be getting that phase where they're a little slower than the hard compound of tyres, and maybe that's why Mika is struggling as much as he is. Looks like Bugatti's still disconnected from the session. I saw in the chat there that the lobby is glitched because a lot of them got kicked off of the race start, which is obviously a shame to see, and it ruins those drivers' first races where they're trying to show what they're made of. But with game glitches like that, it's a shame to see, but there can only be so many delays. But yeah, right now the battle for P2 rages on, which is allowing, I'm just going to call him WOM, to run away with this race win. He was able to keep it consistent, and so far that has paid off for him quite nicely. And we have Mika currently P5 after losing those positions. We could see him come into the pit lane quite soon. Not sure how long these mediums are going to last. If I had to guess, it could be anywhere around 15 to 17 laps, but only time will tell if drivers are going to go for undercuts or overcuts. And as you can see there, Yagi down in P14 is actually on the soft tires, so going for a bit of a bold strategy, maybe on the 2-stop, hoping for a safety car. Not too sure what that be. You can see it was quite sunny at the race start. It's now getting a little bit overcast. We're starting to see a few more clouds in the sky, and we thought it could rain in qualifying. Is there a chance it could happen in the race?
Well, it could happen as, yeah, that top 3 is getting a little bit tasty now, as Olaf is just literally pushing his NLR counterpart, which is Alex the G. Yeah, they're literally battling for position here as they go through turns 5, 6, 7. Nearly want to sing the song 5, 6, 7, 8 then. But yeah, no, it's still all to play for, as I believe the mediums will be starting to come to the end of their life, as yeah, it's kind of a battle for second place really at the moment.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, but I'm starting to think about it a little more now. It's really starting to get quite dark in the skies, and with Yagi being on the soft tires, it only raises my suspicions of could there be some wet weather to come, as we see Alex trying to force his way down the inside into turn 3, makes contact with Daniel and almost spins him round. Thankfully, get away somewhat unscathed, but this now gives Olaf a chance to go down the inside into turn 4. He tries to brake late, but he's going to concede that position to Alex the G and live to fight another day. But Alex the G has obviously got a lot of pace here, but he's getting a little bit impatient, almost spinning Daniel around, and that's a dangerous game to be playing with the fact that you could get post-race penalties. But yeah, my suspicions of a wet race with Yagi being on those softs, possibly trying to stretch them to the wet phase, and maybe that's why so many people started on hards. As we see a big tank slapper from Daniel there, that's caused Mika to retire from the session. Daniel has been spun round, Alex the G has front wing damage, and there is so much chaos going on in this race. One of the safety cars has been deployed, not sure if it is the full course or the VSC. I think it is the full course safety car that has now been deployed because of that incident, and 3 drivers suffering from that. Mika DNFing, Alex the G losing his front wing, and Daniel losing a lot of time and possibly a front wing too. So Yeah, a lot of carnage there on that final turn, but the safety car is now out. How do you think that could affect these drivers' strategies?
Yeah, it plays a massive factor into any strategy for the driver because we were kind of on the cusp of maybe the medium tyres coming to the end of their life. Now the drivers have got to think to themselves, well, if I pit now, have the hards are going to have to do a little bit more, push in early laps to kind of get them in the kind of area they want. As Warman is not going to make a pit, he's going to keep out on the hard compound tyres. As I mentioned before, the one stop is possible if there is a safety car, as the tyres will kind of get a little bit of rest while the drivers aren't going at a full pace throttle. As yeah, a lot of the drivers are going in. More the fact of the hard runners are going in. Nathan, Fod, and obviously, of course, Daniel going in. Alex going for the soft compound tyre. I can't see them lasting as many laps as he probably wants them to last. But yeah, as Woman has now caught up to the Aston Martin Green safety car, and that cloud is coming down ever so what more than it was a few laps ago. So maybe rain is imminent.
And I think all of the signs are pointing to rain. Obviously, Alex G doesn't expect those soft tires to go to the end. Maybe he's just getting them to go to the rain, as a lot of other drivers have done. Kart Racer and Trust Vipex have also gone on to the soft compound tires. So I think the chances of rain are definitely high. A lot of drivers going with weird strategies, and I think the rain is why. So that could really spice up this race. Currently, Woma leads, but this safety car has really not helped him out. He had a 7-second lead almost, if I'm not mistaken, and with that 3-second time penalty, it was going quite nicely for him. But now that the grid is all bunched up, that 3-second time penalty is only going to hurt him in this race, as a couple more drivers coming into the pit lane. So right now we have Olaf in P2, LFR Ian staying out on the mediums, and I'm sure he's going to be stretching those to the wet period. We have Freaky Fast, who we didn't really get to see in qualifying, and it looks like Clark has opted for the intermediate compounded tyres. He's gone for a very early call. Maybe Mark telling him, the race engineer telling him that the rain is almost here. So maybe the rain is closer than we think. Clark going for a very aggressive strategy, going onto those intermediates during this safety car period. But if the rain doesn't hit almost instantly now, that strategy is definitely not going to pay off for him. But I guess he thinks it's worth the risk to possibly go for a podium in this race. But I just saw spits of rain there, and the rain is now falling down. Could this be strategical genius from Clark here?
Yeah, if this works out as a masterclass, then yeah, fair play to Nathan. The rain is now coming down in little bits of drops. At the moment, we'll just go on. Well, obviously, more will go on with one of the drivers, and we'll just see how hard that rain is coming down. It's coming down, but not quick enough to make the track quick enough. What's happened there? That was a little bit naughty by Warman, as he was going too fast and tried to slow down for the safety car, and Olaf went right into the back of him, and I think it caught a few people out, as a lot of the drivers are now switching to the intermediate tyres. Just a little bit of interesting fact for the F1 fans out there, as with the safety car, the 3 lights on the safety car, the yellow light means that the safety car is out, and there is obviously caution on track. The red one for the safety car is obviously red flag. All drivers must return to the pit lane, and then we've got the green one, which is for the drivers that have been lapped. They can overtake the safety car. So for the little F1 fans out there that want a little bit of facts and knowledge, that's kind of a little bit about the safety car. Also, if you're new to F1, that is obviously a little bit of information there for you. But lap 17 of 36, most of the grid, 75 to 80%, are now on the intermediates as that rain comes down a little bit more, and that safety car is coming in. So I'll hand you back over to Moore.
Yeah, and I think with that incident with Woma and Olaf lost his entire front wing and he had to change it in the pit lane. Woma accidentally, well, I assume it was an accident, has gone to the mediums instead of the intermediates. The track is not yet intermediate conditions, so these drivers could really struggle at this stage. As there's a bit of tomfoolery there going on with Woma in the background on the mediums, letting people through and overtaking them. But Freaky Fast is going to be leaning us away. I think it's just a little too early for the intermediates, but they're going to come into place. They're going to come into place soon enough, hopefully, because most of the grid is on them. So we'll see now Freaky Fast leading us away from the final turn, and it looks like a lapped Alpine there, that's iSharky, has actually given Freaky Fast a bit of a buffer there. We see an incident in the background, that's Elifar Indigo, who I think has spun. He's now down in P17, and that's a shame from going from the race that he was running earlier on. We now have Dog Graphics looking down the inside of Yagi. He's not going to commit to that move just yet. As you can see there, the two disconnected cars of Trust, Cynics and Bugatti in P4 and 5. But the rest of the drivers behind are on the intermediate compounded tyres. So there's only 3 drivers who are still on the dry compound of tyres. Wama is the 4th. So the dries are definitely still the call. But how long will it be dry conditions before you have to come in for those intermediate tyres? But we now see Tall Graphics looking down the inside into turn 9 now, the penultimate turn, and he's able to get that move done on Yagi, moves himself up into P2 on his fresh medium compound tyres. It's still dry conditions. As you can see, these drivers starting to pull away, and Kepa has now actually DNF from the session. Todd Graphics has broke too late there. He spun Freaky Fast round, possibly damaged his front wing, and the full course safety car within a matter of a few laps is now released once again. So that's 2 safety car in the space of 5 laps. So that's going to benefit the intermediate compound tire runners, because it now gives the track more time to get a little wetter and get to those intermediate conditions, because right now it is still dry conditions. But yeah, that's a shame. Kepa DNFing from the session and Freaky Fast being spun round from Todd Graphics. I don't think the racing standards have been the highest they've been here in PSGL, but drivers continuing on. We've seen quite a few mistakes, other drivers hitting into each other, and also just general spins around the track, which I guess keeps it fresh for us, because it's anyone's chance of winning. And speaking of winning, who do you think has the best chance of winning this race?
Whoever is in first at the end, I guess. No, it's kind of a bit of a situation where you can't really tell who is going to be the race winner, because the amount of spins, the amount of safety cars we've had so far in the short space of time. Ford, Yagazan, and obviously Bugatti and Trust, obviously them two aren't in the session, have still opted not to go for the intermediate tyres. That track is not wet enough yet, but the problem you've got with the intermediate tyres is they will heat up a lot more quicker, I believe, with the dry track. The drivers will be trying to find little patches of where the rain is on the track to cool down the tyres. So yeah, it's just kind of hold out as much as possible, I guess. Safety cars aren't going to really help the guys on the drier compound tyre, because they'll when they make their pit stop, they'll get overtaken quite a lot. But yeah, it's still all to play for, really, for anyone. But Ian is in the perfect opportunity at the moment to take a race win, because he is in P5 and everyone in front of him has yet to make a pit stop onto the intermediates.
Yeah, and I think the rain is really holding out here for the intermediate guys, who are just anticipating better conditions for their tires. But right now, it's really not going towards them. It's been raining for a good, 6 laps now, maybe 4. I'm not too sure, but it looks like it is starting to get that slight bit heavier. You can see riding on board that there's quite a bit more rain on the lens of the camera. So we could see those intermediate conditions come soon, or maybe the rain will stay like this for the rest of the race, and Thad and Yagi will be in the best conditions to win this race. But you can see now that the track is definitely getting wetter. We're seeing quite a bit more water on the track, so I think it's going to come into those intermediate conditions quite quickly in this race. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. But yeah, LFR Ian currently in P5, the lead, well, a net P3 since Bugatti and Trust Sinks are disconnected from the session. So a net P3 in this race, and on intermediate tyres. So he definitely, I'd have to agree with you there, I think he has the best chance at winning this race. But the track has to get wetter. You can see now the track conditions have most certainly changed. It's now, I assume, on the gap between dry conditions and intermediate conditions. So we'll have to see, are Yagi and Thad going to come into the pit lane? It'll be interesting to see whether they do or not, because it's definitely intermediate conditions out there, I'd have to say. So let's ride on board with Thad for this safety car restart. Is he going to dive into the pit lane, or is he going to risk it out on the medium compound of tyres? It's going to be interesting to see. He has not touched that white line, so I assume he is going to be staying out. Yagi comes into the pit lane, and it looks like Thad is going to be the only man on dry compound tyres on a wet track. And he's led us away for this safety car restart now. LFR Ian is most definitely in the best position to win this race. You can see the grip difference between Thad and Ian. Ian is going to make a nice and easy move on Thad on this straight on the run down into turn 2 and 3, and he's now being overtaken by Clark. A lot of drivers in the background battling for positions. It looks like the AlphaTauri of Daniel going down the inside of Laganga, and he actually pushes him off of the track, and he's made contact with the Aston Martin. He's gone into the wall. Thankfully doesn't lose one of his tyres, but he has lost his entire front wing, and he is now going to have to come into the pit lane to get that repaired. So you can see so many battles going on in the midfield. LFR Indigo going around the outside of Miku into turn 4. Now up into turn 6. He's gained that position. He's currently in the points paying positions, and a net P8 since Todd has to pit, and Bugatti's disconnected from the session. That's a mistake from his teammate Daniel on the exit of turn 7. He is spun, and he's lost a lot of time from that. Thankfully, he hasn't lost a wheel because of it. Todd, is he coming into pit lane? Yes, he's now coming into the pit lane, and he is going to put on those intermediate compound of tyres. Olaf in P4, and it looks like Alex the G has lost quite a bit of time to Clark and Ian ahead of him, and Clark also has a 3-second time penalty. So Ian is in a great position in this race, as we now see Olaf trying to go around the outside into turn 3. Is he going to be able to make this move stick in these wet conditions? It's difficult to pick your braking point. He gets the better traction out of there, and he's able to get himself up into P3, and if he's able to get within 3 seconds of P2, he will be able to get that position too. So yeah, plenty of battles going on in the background, but is there anyone who really stands out here as being a little bit better than the rest in these wet conditions, as we see Olaf go wide there?
Yeah, it looks like yeah, Ian come out from nowhere. I don't think he had a really good qualifying session, if I recall. Has literally just come to life in the rain, and I said earlier on, some people prefer the wet conditions. They relish in these moments, and it's just absolutely phenomenal, as DRS has been re-enabled. So maybe it's not wet enough, but it is wet enough for the intermediate tyres. So the drivers will be trying to find as many wet puddle patches that they can to keep those those intermediate tyres, should I say, as cool as possible. And it looks like it is going to be a cool, calm and collective final 12 laps from the LFR driver in the Mercedes, as he is on his way down into turn 4, as he takes a lot of the curb there on the entry into turn 4, and he is now going through the exit of turn 4 into what will be turn 5, 6 and 7, the middle sector of his lap of lap 24, and his middle sector time is around 2.2 seconds slower than his dry time. So you can definitely now start to see that rain is now settling in for what will be the final 11 laps.
Yeah, and it looks like Olaf and Alex G especially struggling in these wet conditions. We saw Olaf go wide quite a few times, Alex G struggling on traction. This is allowing Kart Racer to move himself up into P3 and what will be a net P2 after penalties are applied. So he's doing quite nicely for himself after having that incident with Yagi and falling all the way towards the back of the grid. He's now moved himself back up into P2 for now. So he's doing quite nicely for himself. But these are super interesting conditions, and some conditions that you don't see very often. We are seeing wet racing, probably some of the more difficult racing in Formula 1, but we also get to see the DRS, although I think it has now been disabled. So no, it's still enabled. So we're seeing these drivers have more opportunities to overtake going into these turns. But I think the DRS could possibly hurt them going into the braking zones, because you have that extra 10-15 kilometers per hour, which then means you have to brake that little bit earlier for the turns. It looks like a mistake there from the Haas car of Miku, who resets the track there. And I think that was a spin on the exit of turn 6, and he's now just ahead of his teammate Yagi. So a shame to see from him dropping down just outside of the points. But right now we technically have a DRS train from P4 to P8, but we are now seeing quite a few time penalties up and down the grid. You can see here Clark has got himself 6 seconds of time penalties, really struggling with those track limits. LFR Indigo and WOM have both got themselves 3 seconds of time penalties. So yeah, you can definitely see the struggle is real at this track. You can see Alex the G is now looking for a move into turn 4. He has a look down the inside, moves back to the racing line, almost makes contact with Olaf there, but both of them able to keep it nice and clean. And you can see that DRS is really helping on the straights, as you see Olaf go wide there going through turn 6. Checking back in with Ian, started P19, is currently P1 and absolutely dominating this race. To go from such a difficult qualifying to such a great race, it's really a spectacular performance from him.
Yeah, as they say, you don't win points on Saturday, well, unless it's a sprint race, of course. But yeah, it looks like we haven't got Mr. Saturday this evening. We've got Mr. Sunday here, and Ian is proving everything right at the moment, as he is on for what potentially a race win here for the Mercedes team, as he is in P1, and he's got a bit of a gap now. He's got 3.4 second gap into turn 4. So yeah, track limits are going to be a little bit of a nuisance to the drivers now, because obviously the braking is going to be a lot different on the wet conditions. But it looks like Ian is handling it perfectly, as DRS has now been disabled. So Ian would not be at any threat from any driver behind him. With the DRS, they will have to use their pure pace and the ERS that will be available to the drivers. And just looking at ERS, Nathan has hardly any ERS, so that's going to be a bonus to Ian, as, well, Nathan goes rather wide on the final 2 corners of his lap, as Indigo gets a penalty, and that's the 3 second, and Carter Racer is right on the back of Nathan, and I believe a move is happening very soon, as Carter Racer is nearly on the back of that diffuser. As they make their way up to turn 3, no DRS activated, as it has been now disabled by race control, and Carter Racer is already still on the back of him. As they make their way down into turn 4, can Carter Racer make a move into turn 4? We will find out as they are on their way there. Behind them, Olaf, Alex the G, and Trust is also battling, but it doesn't look like Carter Racer can get the move done in turn 4 as they make their way into turn 5, 6 and 7 through the middle sector, and there is still that battle behind them for what will be potentially P4.
Yeah, and I think Kart Racer has actually had some great pace in these wet conditions along with LFR Ian. And obviously, Kart Racer doesn't have to overtake Clark to get this P2, but he's going to want to do so just to make sure that Olaf behind doesn't catch up to them. So trying to fake out Clark going into turn one, having a look down the inside. That's a yellow flag in the background. Not too sure who that's for. That's for the Haskar of Yagi, who qualified P4. He's now down in P13 and out of the points. He's really struggled this race, and it's definitely a shame to see. You can see really struggling with the traction. Clark and Kart Racer now going side by side out of turn 3, and Kart Racer has got the better exit there, and he moves himself up into P2 on track back to where he qualified originally. So you can see he's doing quite nicely for himself in this race, whereas Clark's struggling quite a bit. It looks like Trust Viper has completely squeezed Alex G off of the tractor as we switch to the onboard of Alex G, and then he gets taken out by Wama, who rear ends him going into turn 6. And that was very clumsy from Wama there, and he's actually slowed down, maybe to let who did he spin again? Sorry, Alex the G. Maybe he's waiting for Alex the G to overtake him again, but he's actually just causing a lot of mayhem in the background, slowing a lot of drivers up. This is an extremely clumsy race from what was Mr. Consistency in the early stage of this race. So yeah, Wama now dives into the pit lane along with Daniel, LFR Indigo, and Clark. Indigo is now onto the full wet tires. So could we see heavier rain in this race? As you can see, the puddles are now forming on track. You can see the rain moving in big sprays. So I think a couple of the intermediate runners are going to be coming in for the full wet tires. As you can see, only the top 5 aren't on the full wets. Laganga has actually retired from the session as soon as he got out of the pit lane on the full wet. No, I think he's come into the pit lane to retire from the session. So yeah, the full wet conditions are here, and do you think Ian is going to struggle with these weather conditions?
Yeah, it's looking like we are going to go to a full wet end of the race. 6 laps as Ian is into the pits. Ian is going to switch to the wets. He will lose the race lead, but he is going to be on some fresh wets, and it will be a benefit to him as well, as Kart Racer is going to stay out. Now this is going to be very crucial. Can Kart Racer hold on to the mediums, or is Ian going to be able to catch up? They're going to have 5 laps to do it in, so this is going to be nail-biting stuff, as Nathan is also still within the hunt. Ian has to find 11 seconds in 5 laps. Is it doable? We're going to find out, so sit back, watch, and yeah, it's going to be an absolute fantastic end to this amazing round 1 here in PSGL F7.
Yeah, and I must say F7 have delivered with some amazing on-track battles throughout this Grand Prix. And Kart Racer now going with a very bold strategy. He's already lost 2 seconds in the matter of just 4 turns. And it's now gone up to 3 seconds. So this intermediate tire strategy might not be the one, as don't be surprised if you see him diving into the pit lane now for his own sake of finishing this race. But you see he's continuing on, he's committing to this strategy, but he's already lost 5 seconds, almost 6 in just 1 lap. So this strategy isn't going to get him the race win, but it could get him a podium position in this Grand Prix, although it'll be a bit of a risky way to get a podium. We'll have to see if it works out for him. It looks like Trust Vipex is currently P5 in this Grand Prix, and possibly on the podium if we have a look at the time penalties here. Indigo and Clark both having 6 seconds of time penalties, so Clark is currently on the podium even with those 6 seconds of time penalties, so he's doing quite nicely for himself. Trust Vipex going wide into turn 1, and it looks like Olaf behind him also going wide as these two battle it out for P5 on track, although Trust Vipex doesn't have any time penalties, and neither does kart racers. So any driver without penalties is it's really going to help them in this race. But you can see now LFR Ian 1.5 seconds on the back of kart racer, and he's going to be looking for the move soon enough. Kart racer has absolutely no grip, most likely aquaplaning on those intermediate compounded tires. LFR Ian flies past, and it's now about keeping Clark and Indigo behind, but it's going to be very tricky for him to do that, as once Ian crosses the line, we are going to have 4 more laps to go, including this one. So there's still a lot of time to be lost for kart racer here. And do you think this strategy is going to work out for him?
Yeah, it's not looking too good. It just brings me back to Lando Norris in Russia. That painful race where we saw Lando nearly have a cracker of a race in Russia. Kart Racer has kind of picked a bold strategy, I have to say. He's gone for the intermediates and he's stuck with them. He could have made a pit stop for the wets, didn't, and it has come back to hurt him. Race win, obviously not on the cards, unless, you know, by some miracle, Ian didn't finish the race, which I can't see that happening now. But yeah, it's maybe a little too late now for Kart Racer, as we see him struggling so much, as Nathan is going to go past him. And yeah, we've had a little bit of everything this evening. We've had the sun, the clouds, a little bit of rain, and now heavy rain. So yeah, we've had all 4 weathers.
And I think we've also seen all 5 tyre compounds used in just one Grand Prix. So it's been a very exciting one so far here in PSGL's Formula 7 on PlayStation. But right now, you have Daniel V also battling it out with Olaf for P6 in this race. And since Olaf has those 3 seconds of time penalties, Daniel is currently in P3. Miku and Freaky Fast looking to gain a position by staying within 3 seconds of Wama. So you can see the penalties are definitely a massive deciding factor in this race and what the end results will be. We now have 3 laps to go in this race, not long to go and not too much more pain for Kart Racer. We can now see LFR Indigo is coming up on the back of him. It doesn't look like Kart Racer will be getting P2 in this race. It looks like Yagi has come into pit lane and retired from the session. So as you can see now, LFR Indigo making his way past Kart Racer, coming into turn 5 and 6. So Kart Racer doesn't look like he'll be able to get to P2, but will he be able to stick within 6 seconds of LFR Indigo? And it's been an up and down race for LFR Indigo. At one stage he was at the front of the grid and then the back, and now he's back at the front. So he's been all over the grid, but he's now currently in P3 and has to break a 6-second gap to Kart Racer behind him. But Trust Vipex is now going to be looking to try and get past Kart Racer for P4 in this race. But Vipex is obviously going to be under pressure from Olaf and Daniel V as well. But we now enter the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix. LFR Ian still leading this race. It's been a dominating performance in the wet from him, and you really couldn't ask for much more. Starting P19, doing essentially a last to first challenge in your very first league race of the season. I think he'll be very happy with that. But Kart Racer is now 4.9 seconds behind P3, which is LFR Indigo, and Trust Vipex is going to be catching him quite soon. So you can obviously see Kart Racer, this strategy hasn't worked out for him. And do you think the wet compound of tyres would have worked better for him?
Yeah, I think the wets were the tyre he was looking for. And just to put this into context, Trust has done 4 pit stops, and he has put in an absolute fantastic race in so far. He is battling for P5, P6 and P7. Olaf and Daniel are battling away, which is helping Trust as they all make their way round to that final lap here in Austria, as we are now gearing up for the final lap, as Ian is already on his way. He's making his way down to turn 4, as he is going to be in a few short corners going to be picking up that first race win if all goes well. He's now all getting a little bit twitchy on the exit of turn 4. He makes his way through to turn 5, and then he comes to the end of the middle sector. He is now coming through turn 6, 7, and then 8, as he's going to have to negotiate this a little bit more cautiously due to the wet conditions. And yeah, he is now going to make the final 2 positions. He may have not got pole position in Austria, but he's going to take the provisional race win here this evening. LFR Ian is now your race winner here this evening, and he does it in style. He's got to cross the line, and he does emphatically.
Yeah, almost spinning the car before actually crossing the line there. So LFR Ian is your race winner in the opening round of season 31 of Formula 7. And what a way to do it, all the way from P19. Clark is able to pick up P2 in this race, with Indigo snatching the final podium position. Kart Racer made a mistake at some point. He fell all the way down to P7. Trust Vipex is able to finish in P4. Daniel managing to get P5. Kart Racer falling down to P6. Olaf in P7. Wom in P8. Freaky Fast in P9. And Thod rounds out the points position in this opening round, where all 5 tyre compounds were used. That was an absolutely amazing race and a great performance from LFR Ian, winning his first race for Mercedes. And I'm sure he's going to be very happy with that one, and showing why he's in this division. Not the best qualifying performance, but able to make it up in the race. So there you go. There is your race winner for Mercedes, with the Williams driver and the AlphaTauri driver alongside him on the podium. But what an opening round that was, and if that's a race for things to come, let's hope it is, because I want to see that every week, with such a great performance from a lot of drivers, a lot of mistakes up and down the grid, plenty of side-by-side action, and one of the better races I've seen in my time. What did you personally think of that race?
Yeah, where do you begin? Yeah, as you mentioned, it was a very chaotic race, but nonetheless, it was an absolute fantastic race to open the season 31 here in PSGL 4 F7. A lot of changes in the weather that made it all a bit different. So LFR Ian is your race. Nathan Clark in P2 and LFR Indigo in P3, rounding off that podium place.
Yeah, so that is going to be the opening round, obviously, here at Austria, and Ian is going to be leading the championship after that race win. Kart Racer was able to get that fastest lap in those dry conditions in the earlier stage of the race. And you can see there the top 2 drivers started P19 and P16 on the grid, with P4 and 5 starting P13 and P15. So qualifying meant pretty much nothing in that session. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I think we actually reached 100 viewers at one point of the stream. So thank you everyone so much for coming along for this first round of the season. And I hope to see you all next week, Monday at 8 o'clock BST, for round 2 of PSGL's PlayStation Formula 7. And we arrive at the brand new American circuit of Miami. So that is going to be a very exciting one, and a new dynamic for racing, and one that most drivers won't be too familiar with. But once again, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you all next week.